Hi, everyone. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Some of you may have seen the video I put up before this, which is myself as Joestradamus and Ben Scott, Angry Ben's weather. We did the weather together this morning on the video. Unfortunately, someone forgot the power cord to one's computer, and as a result, about a little over 10 minutes into it, it died. So we never really got to finish it, but we gave you a good 10 minutes. But I'm going to review, but we have the late afternoon GFS run, so I'm going to take you through that. We are seeing high pressure that's going to be moving out tonight. We've got a weak cold front that moves through here on Sunday that brings in another little shot of colder air, but not cold enough for the next weather system that's going to be coming into the Rockies and redeveloping in northern central Missouri. You see it here, low pressure in northwest Missouri. Notice that there's some rain around it, but it's not like some sort of widespread rain. The Gulf of Mexico is not that open for moisture, so this doesn't really have as good an inflow as you might normally see. And as a result, you have this broken area of snow that breaks out ahead of it that goes up into upstate New York and in New England, upstate New York, where they don't need any more snow, given the huge amounts of lake effect snow that they've received in some areas in north central New York over the last several days, amounts of some ridiculous amounts, 50, 60 inches or more in some places. It was snow up to the rooftops. And now they're going to have to worry about rain, so they better get the snow off the roof. Now, this storm is not as intense as previously forecast by the models. I mentioned days ago about the fact that the models might have been way overzealous in intensifying this, and then after several runs of showing it and all the models agreeing that there'd be a deep low in Michigan, I kind of threw in the towel and said, okay, maybe this time around it is the case. And then when we look at the last couple of runs, it's not. I mean, there's a 995 pressure sitting here east of Detroit, big deal. So as a result, you don't see the widespread heavy snows that the models were indicating for parts of northern Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan. And for the lower peninsula, in Michigan, it's mainly rain. Here in the Northeast, it's not even cold enough for snow at the start, so that when precipitation arrives, it's mostly rain, maybe a little bit of sleet in the mix on Tuesday morning, and then up and out it goes. And even there, it's just not that impressive at all. The snows behind this are not that impressive at all either, because of the fact that the low is not as deep, that it runs up northeastward, and it gets a pressure down into the low 980s when it gets into eastern Canada. The European still has a bit of a deeper feature, so maybe we'll compromise all of them. And then after that, it goes goodbye, and we get a shot of cold air behind it that moves into the northeast. Now, one of the things that the models were doing a few days ago was developing some sort of a wave. It does try to develop a wave off the southeast coast. You see it here with even some snows into North Carolina by the end of the week. Now, it's kind of bizarre how this all plays out, because you've got this other system now coming into the west as well, all at the same time. So a bit of a busy map here. That low off the southeast just kind of meanders there, and then we get another front with a shot of cold air behind it. But because that low is out there, the front can only get so far, and it slows down and stalls, and it actually lifts part of that low up as another wave develops, and it produces some rain changing over to snow, if you want to believe it, for early next week. I think this is going to change some more. The structure of the trough might suggest that there's a chance here for this to happen, but we'll see. And then out it goes. And then we have another system, another diver from the north that brings another front and a shot of cold air into the northeast. This is about the only part of the United States that's going to be cold by the time we get to February 18th. And then it warms up. Cold air kind of pulls up back into Canada, much like it did when we had that first week of the thaw back in January. One of the things that I'm seeing as far as that goes, we'll show you the upper air. And let me just back this up. There's that lovely ridge at the east at the end of the period, which we all love to see. One of the things that caught my eye yesterday was this system that's playing up for early next week. That if this trough that's coming down in the northwest flow is deep enough and a little further left, there might be room for this. So I'm going to watch this closely and just to see how it evolves. Let me let's get this picture back where it was. Here's the upper air, the full North America view right here. And I'm sorry, I'm just kind of getting sloppy fingered here. And here's the trough. As we look at each run, that trough is further west, and that's going to be something we're going to watch, because it went from being on the coast to just inland of the coast, and now it's further west. And there's nothing that doesn't. By the way, there's nothing that says that it can't be even further west than what it winds up what reality shows. So here's the new view, and when we go back a couple of runs, you can see the difference in the structure of the trough. It's totally different on this run. See how it's on the coast here, and then on the new run for the same time period, it's much further to the west. So that's going to be important. The position of that trough being further west is going to be key to all this. You also have a pretty strong ridge up in the Pacific, up in the west, and that's something that's been absent for a good part of the winter. The strong ridge would support something developing closer to the coastline and moving northeastward. And it also would support, by the way, colder air coming into the equation over time. And that is that's going to be a critical element if it winds up evolving that way. Now, longer term, you wind up, after that pulls, that lifts up and out, we start to go into that Canadian mess again. The flow from Canada is now cut off. You have a bit of a cold flow that goes into southeastern Canada, but the flow across the United States is coming in from the Pacific, and you've got all these Pacific systems rolling along in the flow. And that's going to mean for warmer temperatures if this is correct. One of the things that I have noticed is that the models seem to be slowing it in terms of getting to this position, and it could be because of what it's doing with that lead trough. So every run of the model, the arrival of the warmer air seems to be 12 hours later. So I want to see if that's the case. I also would question whether it's a change that's going to be longer term, or is it going to be transitory? And I think that's an answer that we don't know at this point. A lot is going to depend on developments in the Atlantic. Once again, the model wants to show blocking. I don't know if that's the case, because on some runs it's there, and then you look the run later and it's gone. One of the things that some of the long-range people have been pointing out, and I am going to tell you right off the bat, I don't completely understand how this works, but a lot of the long-range people like to look at the upper layers of the atmosphere, the highest layers of the atmosphere, going way up. And one of the things that the model does on this run, this is the polar vortex basically in the stratosphere, way up in the above, 35,000 feet and beyond. And there's a polar vortex. Usually there's only one or two features up at this level, and we have a polar vortex that winds up splitting. Okay, part of it splits and drops into Siberia. The other part splits and drops into North America. Now, those that understand all this, a split like this would imply blocking and cold air. I want to, I'm kind of, being that I'm learning this, if we translate into a look like this in the stratosphere, I'm going to be interested to see how it plays out, at the bottom of the atmosphere. And one of the things that they also say is that there's usually a lag time of about 10 days to 2 weeks. And if that's the case, we're talking about something happening around February 17th, 16th, 17th. So it may not manifest itself until we get to the end of the month and the beginning of March. And of course, the clock is ticking for winter weather lovers. At this point on, we are past the astronomical halfway point, which was yesterday at 5:40 p.m. or something like that. So, we're starting to get later and later in the game. Late February to mid-March can be a very volatile time. We've seen some very big storms, including the superstorm of 1993, was in the second week of March. So for something to happen wouldn't be unusual. But you know what? I want to see this happen first and verify before I get worked up over it. So we'll see. We'll see how is that in the super long range. Let's show you what the model generates for snowfall from this first system, and we'll switch back over to the snowfall maps for you. I think we can safely use total snowfall, and northern New England does very well, as does the upper peninsula of Michigan, but the lower peninsula, except for the extreme north, not so much. Not that much snow at all. I'll back it up some more because I want to show you just from what comes out of the event, which would take us to Wednesday, and we'll go to 0Z Thursday. So there's some decent additional snow amounts in northeastern New York and in northern New England. There's also some decent amounts in the upper peninsula of Michigan, but not nearly what was being shown just a couple of days ago. And downstate here in northern New Jersey, it still kind of implies that there might be some snow or sleet at the start. You know what? If it's a coating or a bit more in some places, and I think you're going to have to go well inland for that. I'm just not impressed by this at all in terms of what could happen on the front end, so I'm really not too worried about it. And in terms of the longer term indices, you have the PNA, the Pacific North America Index, going super positive for the period from about February 10th to February 18th. The NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, which we look as a blocking signature, and I think it's somewhat overstated in terms of its overall impact. I think there have to be other things in play here. Is somewhat positive, but not overly so. The EPO index, which when is negative, is cold in the east, is somewhat positive, but not overly so. There's a couple of little spikes here where it's strong, but not crazy. This is when we have the storm in the Great Lakes, which would explain the warmer air coming into the east, and then again next weekend when the cold air behind that storm begins to pull out, and then it drops down to neutral. This would be around the time frame of the wave in the east. So we'll see. We'll see. It's always speculative, and I think everybody understands that. So I hope you enjoyed my video with Angry Ben. I apologize again for the fact that it really. Next time I will remember the power cord so we don't have that fiasco again, but at least I had a good 10-minute chunk and you got to see that. And I'm trying to work out a schedule with him so that maybe we can do that on a weekly basis, which I enjoy doing. I love having somebody doing this with me. And Ben's very good. He's got very good insight in his forecasting skills, and I think you guys would enjoy watching sort of a tag team going on. If you've been with me this long tonight, thank you. Subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a dime. You get notified when a new video goes up. And you can download my app and subscribe to my local forecast for New York, New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, and Hudson Valley. That download is free, and the app, subscription is just 99 cents a month. Angry Ben is on nycweathernow.com. Where you can get all the latest weather information and insights for the New York City area and close by. And of course, I cover that area as well as other areas, Long Island, New Jersey, Hudson Valley, Eastern Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, on meteorologist joechaffee.com, and specifically for Long Island on weatherlongisland.com. I know I threw a lot at you. Cards are up there with links. If you'd like to check them out, by all means, please do. And I'm on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can follow me there as well. Have a great, great evening, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I don't have any plans for it since I honestly don't care who wins. So the Giants aren't there, so it's not relevant to me. All right, have a great rest of your weekend. Be safe, and we will talk to you tomorrow.